Hello to all of you, or the few of you that may actually come to this video. I know it's been some time. Where can I start? The last few months have been extremely intense in terms of having to go inwards for a deep dive that shifted the nodes into the Libra Aries axis. Very much required of us to move out of the Scorpio Taurus dynamic. So there were a lot of loose ends that needed to be figured out, and hopefully you were able to work through that enough to find yourself in a place of receiving the new karmic path, which is one towards individualization, self-empowerment, leaving behind codependency and any kind of lack of independent integrity that we might have carried along our road with us as a result of trauma. That old lovely word that hopefully you've also worked through sufficiently to have reached a point where you're able to embody your strength and your power in the Aries dynamic, but understanding that that is never to be to the detriment of the collective. Beyond that, then we had the Venus retrograde in Leo, which was the first time in 170 years, approximately, since the last time that Venus was retrograde only in Leo, in the one sign. Usually she starts in Virgo and regresses into Leo, if that is ever the time that it's in, or starts in Leo and regresses into Cancer. So what does that say about the intensity of that experience? Hopefully you came to understand something very profound within yourself that required nurturing, healing. It all revolved around self-love, and no matter how much we may have worked on ourselves over the last several years, perhaps even a decade for some of us, or some of you who can pinpoint a pivot in life when things started to shift into a different formation of reality. And the Venus retrograde was tough. I had anticipated that it was going to be this, perhaps frivolous time in life when everything would suddenly become buoyant and playful and light. And of course, I was deluded. I liberated myself from a very toxic work situation at that time. So it corresponded exactly with the time of Venus turning retrograde. So I understood it as a huge opportunity to do a deep dive into all that remained in my life of a narrative that was more than uncomfortable. It was sad in many ways. It was disconcerting because it sort of forced me to realize how deluded I might have been in many ways about where I stood on my self-realization journey. And I did a lot of intensive meditating and writing in order to come into alignment with what I actually want out of life. And boy, oh boy, is it difficult to define that. For me, I don't know about you, but when it really comes down to the nitty-gritty, it's really hard to define what you actually want. Sometimes because you have to take into consideration what you've already had and whether you actually had it. Which brings us to that shift out of Venus's time in the underworld. She went direct on the 3rd of September. And Mercury was still retrograde and is still retrograde until tomorrow officially. That would be the 15th if you're watching this later. And Mars went retrograde the day that Venus went direct. So we're still trying to piece together this divine masculine, divine feminine divide within us that makes us pivot and swing with the pendulum of time and earthly manifestations, all the distractions that are foisted upon us, the fear programming, the essence of fear that exists so deeply woven into all of our, to the fabric of our society. The constant warmongering, the proliferation of dishonesty and hate and division, and it's to the sensitive soul, as you undoubtedly are, it is a not only distressing, but it induces a sense of despair if we do not anchor ourselves and invest in our spirituality. So all of this to say that while there was no radical awakening for me, in the sense that I didn't suddenly emerge from all of this transformative energy as a completely new person, as you can see, I'm still here, the same person, same pseudo living area in my very small apartment here in West Hollywood, California. But the shell of my life certainly has changed enormously, and sometimes when you break away the shell, you come to see that the essence of who you are is exposed for how well nurtured you are, and in my case also exposes how isolated and disconnected, socially disconnected I actually am, which is a good thing, because for those of us that are on this awakened path, we have kind of had to come to terms with that solitude, that while we're all, none of us is pious, and therefore none of us are going to just put on a robe and chant all day long. Maybe some of you do. We find that the social indulgences tend to not offer much reward. And so it's been confusing to figure out how to renegotiate our energetic relationship to the world around us, taking into consideration that I'm quite certain at this point that a good number of people out there are like NPCs, non-player characters, like not actually humans with souls, which could either be deemed as extraordinarily narcissistic or the truth. Whichever way you want to take it is the way you will receive the message, I suppose. And it's highly unlikely that if you're watching me, that you would have any other perspective on just how bizarrely unhuman many of the apparent humans really are. And I've seen a real tendency in recent times toward a disintegration of the apparent essence of many people, where they have become less and less complex as human beings and more anchored in the things that we have graduated from, the things that we no longer empower in our lives because we understand that they relate to the devil energy of the tarot, or purely demonic energy in a more tangible manner. So anyway, that's my monologue for this re-entry into making content. I actually made 2 attempts at making energy reports that failed to record sound, which I suppose one could put down to being Mercury retrograde at its finest. But I have a feeling that it was more to do with the fact that I energetically knew that I would not be able to deliver from a fully present mindset until the new moon in Virgo was upon us. And as I said earlier, happens to coincide with Mercury turning direct just a few hours later. So let's hope that Mercury does not mess with me in the meantime. Anyway, I'm very glad that you're here. I will try to be concise. We are using both the Thoth Tarot and the Rider-Waite for clarifiers. We have animal oracle cards that insisted on coming out in a set of 3. They literally jumped out, so I think that there were some big themes that we need to focus on, and that's where we'll start. And I did take a opening and ending Osho Zen tarot card. So let's get right into our animal oracle cards. Just trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to share. I do think that we're going to find that while a lot will be emerging and shifting over the next 2 months, it probably won't be until Scorpio season that we really see the more radical manifestations of the accumulation of this energy. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I imagine that it's going to be intense and interesting, at the very least. Excuse me, because I have heartburn. because I decided to make something that had onions in it, and onions give me heartburn. And I guess I never learned my lesson with certain things. Seemed like a great idea. Okay. For our spirit animal oracle cards, our first message was probably one of reassurance for those of us who have struggled with, well, we're always in a struggle of faith, right? So we have Eagle Spirit, number 23. Spirit has your back. And so I shall simply read directly from our book so that we get an idea of what exactly we're facing in these times. Think of the eagles flying high above the other birds, soaring on the wind. Eagle Spirit has appeared to ask whether you're willing to soar to new heights, even if that means solitude for a short while. Truly, all the wisdom of the world is available to you. When storms flash across the sky, it is Eagle Spirit that raises you above it all, helping you to conquer fear and overcome adversity, reminding you that Spirit has your back and wants you to experience life at its fullest. At this moment, you are meant to know that you have the highest of wisdom and courage within, gifted to you by Spirit and all the angels. Boldly build your nest in a lofty space and know that now you can fly effortlessly, proudly embodying Eagle Spirit in all her glory and grace, proclaiming what is truly yours in divine timing. Well, that is a perfect opening message, and one that I think probably resonates for all of us coming out of this retrograde energy. Not forgetting that the other planets are still retrograde for a little while longer. Pluto is the first to turn direct next, sometime in October, I think mid-October, but don't quote me on that. The eclipses start as well in October, so, well, the eclipse will be in October. So we'll talk about that later in another video. Our next card, Electric Eel Spirit, and I did shuffle these, so please don't think that they just came out in succession, because this is actually number 24 after Eagle Spirit number 23. Bring your ideas to life. Now, you may have been incubating some creative ideas or some, well, it's Virgo season, so there may have been some questions around discipline in terms of any form of creativity, any form of self-care, self-nurturing, things that bring you to a higher level of functioning within your own scope of existence. So there was a very insular period of time over the summer where you may have just been sort of sitting on things, like coming up with ideas internally, and this may be even more resonant for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, because as you emerge now into spring and eventually summer, there's this sense of revival. Of course, it works in both ways, because for many of us, as things wind down into autumn and winter, we have more time to focus on ourselves, because life becomes more interiorized anyway, right? The oracle message of Electric Eel Spirit. Seemingly out of nowhere, the jolt of Electric Eel Spirit appears to awaken you to a big idea that you are meant to explore. Epiphanies and aha moments are given to you right now, so celebrate. Your life has the potential for profound transformation. Inspiration arises in you, electrifying you, that you can't wait to get started bringing your idea to life. This is very much the energy of this new moon. So the next 2 weeks into the full moon I think, be bringing us a lot of innovation, a lot of serendipity, a lot of epiphany, a lot of psychic manifestation in many ways. And so pay close attention to your intuition and trust it. Sit with it. Make sure you have quiet time to really sit with your observations and explore them from a psychic, intuitive dynamic. Explore, examine, and do not fear the changes that may come, for Spirit wants to shower you with love, success, and abundance that you hope to experience. Now is a thrilling time of epiphanies, inspired ideas, and innovation. This is a wondrous sign for you today. I made some very, very tall requests for this new moon, because I do know there's an enormous amount of potency to it. So, you still have time if you haven't yet, but do make sure that you list out perhaps a few things that you would like to learn, from a passionate perspective, not from a perfunctory I need to do this to advance my career kind of shit, because that's not what this channel is about. But the things that you really want to enjoy, because a lot of what I'm sensing about this time is that it's finally an invitation to indulge your inner child in playfulness. Can you be playful? Can you play? Have you noticed how little playing you've been doing? That's certainly something that I've had to consider a lot. I've been very, very serious. And I left my place of employment with a comfortable financial buoy to make sure that I would be able to take the time to focus on creativity. And while I have done that to some degree, I've just felt this constant nagging anxiety over, you can't do this. How could you think that you're entitled to do, to step away from your social responsibilities, whatever the fuck those are. And so, actually, bear with me 1 second, because my headphones have just decided to conk out, so I need to turn them off. Sorry about that, but we will have to go back to not being mic'd. So I hope you can hear me okay. It's pretty quiet this evening, so hopefully it shouldn't be too much of a problem, and I'll make sure that I speak as clearly as I possibly can. Damn, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, can't be that important. It'll come back to me if it was. Anxiety and how much that gets in the way of actually being able to relax into playfulness. The things that we want to experience in life, we can't do when we feel this solemn weight of responsibility that is just a societal projection. It's not even something that we really have any obligation to feel, but somehow the way that we've been educated, the way that society conditions us, we feel that we have to meet certain markers at certain points in our life. And the truth of the matter is that we live in a society that is like a Ponzi scheme that none of us can actually move ahead in, right? At this point, I mean, we've talked about this before. If you've been with this channel in the past, obviously societally we've seen ourselves become more and more disempowered and under this spell of somehow thinking that we're all entitled and actually able to climb a social hierarchical ladder that not only leads nowhere, but on top of that, that is rigged to make sure that you're priced out of it. You can't. And with the type of hyperinflation that we've seen over the last 2 years, and the fact that we are constantly being misinformed about stabilization of our economies, when we haven't had deflation in between times. We've just, the slower rate of inflation just adds on to the inflation that's already taken place. Somehow, I would love to be able to say that it's just because the media and government are stupid, but obviously that's not the reason why they do that, right? It's, they have to keep us sucking on the teat of the nonsensical system in which we live. And again, I am knocking it, but I also know that I'm not really sure what the alternative would be, and I certainly don't wish to experience societal collapse. So I guess we'll just have to keep trying, and just use our light to elevate the frequency, right? Anyway, where was I? Oh, our third spirit animal oracle card that came out is Spider Spirit. I didn't tell you, but, well, some of you know me, but I got bitten by a black widow spider on my elbow, I guess it's over 6 weeks ago now, and it was really horrific, and I actually went through a neurological shock from it. Pretty weird, but anyway, I try to make peace with spiders as much as I can. And in this case, our delightful spider spirit tells us to make our dreams real. So there's a theme here. It seems to be this was the order that they came out together, and so I think that we're supposed to weave these together, pun intended. Oh, and here we go. Weaving your dreams into the fabric of life begins with a single thread of intention, and then Spirit joins you as your co-weaving partner. Take but a single step to make your dream a reality, and Spirit will take 10 toward you, for the universe is designed to support your dream weaving. And I do think that very much the theme of the last couple of months has been to really understand in my life that we create our own reality. And as simple as that may sound, and you may be like, well, of course, Alex, we create our own reality, our thoughts create our reality. But no, consciously speaking, more often than not, we just allow things to happen to us while we're focused on anxiety and complaint and discomfort and insecurity and whatever else. And of course, that is, I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to come back to you as, your worst nightmares coming true, but it certainly keeps you from being the magician, right? So anyway, Spider Spirit arrives when you need reminding of the awesome power of co-creation with Spirit. Ideas and resources will begin to appear as if by magic as you begin to bring your dreams from the realm of intention into the world of the senses where they take form. The action you need to take is to be clear about your intentions and then act as if you have become the one that lives the life you desire. The web of creation has an uncanny way of coming together to weave the beautiful patterns that you set in motion. Another message of Spider Spirit is about any creative projects you may be considering: writing, painting, music, journaling, gardening, etc. Now is the time when inspiration wants to be channeled through you as something creative, even artistic and tangible. Creative projects are successful now if you are so inclined. Let yourself be open to abundance. I take heed. And my current mantra that I cite daily when I've taken to doing sound baths and chanting, which has been really therapeutic and opening for me. So, but I do always go out of my way to make, to voice the mantra of I am ready for divine intervention. And we'll see, you know? I set a lot of intentions, as I said earlier, for this new moon, so okay, so our past energy from this is our tarot now. We got, and in the Thoth deck, the Four of Wands is completion, which is an interesting perspective. So completion of a cycle, a building cycle, a cycle of ideas, a cycle of things that we put into action in our lives that may or may not have amounted to what we thought they held the promise of. I say that because it came out with the Knight of Swords, and the Knight of Swords in this case gives me a strong sense of that completion energy coming with a sharp edged knife of truth. That we may have had to strip back some untruths in order to come to a type of clarity required in order for us to start afresh. And as I said, this new moon is a good demarcation of that opportunity to start afresh. So keep that in mind. This was clarified by these three cards that came out together: Strength, Wheel of Fortune, and the Hanged Man. So here we have a strong sense of our inner will, our inner tenacity is what pushed the Wheel of Fortune to turn, to take us out of somewhere where we were unfulfilled and stuck because we had invested in ideas and situations that we thought were going to deliver, or we'd hoped would deliver, and they probably disappointed. But all is not lost, because that Wheel of Fortune also took us out of the Hanged Man, which is a sense of feeling like we, in this case, that we were in an imbalanced sacrifice, and that sacrifice was actually holding us back in our minds from moving forward with where we wanted to go. So sometimes you have to cut away what doesn't serve and that actually prevents you from making those small steps to start something new, right? So that's pretty much what that energy is all about. That's our past, that's our foundation. So we are moving away from that. There's a strong sense of healing in that, and that is why I am going to read our Osho opening energy card, because it is exactly where this reading starts energetically. What we are evolving as a result of now. So bear with me while I find the healing card. Why is it so hard for me to find? In this case, the healing card is the King of Cups, which is It is a time when the deeply buried wounds of the past are coming to the surface, ready and available to be healed. The figure in this card is naked, vulnerable, open to the loving touch of existence. The aura around his body is full of light, and the quality of relaxation, caring, and love that surrounds him is dissolving his struggle and suffering. Lotuses of light appear on his physical body and around the subtle energy bodies that healers say surround each of us. In each of these subtle layers appears a healing crystal or pattern. When we are under the healing influence of the King of Water, we are no longer hiding from ourselves or others. In this attitude of openness and acceptance, we can be healed and help others also to be healthy and whole. Sorry for reading that like I was a third grader, but the font is so small. I'm just gonna show you it's like really small. Anyway. No, you carry your wound. With the ego, your whole being is a wound, and you carry it around. Nobody is interested in hurting you. Nobody is positively waiting to hurt you. Everybody is engaged in safeguarding his own wound. Who has got the energy? But still, it happens because you are so ready to be wounded, so ready, just waiting on the brink for anything. You cannot touch a man of Tao. Why? Because there is no one to be touched. There is no wound. He is healthy, healed, whole. The word whole is beautiful. The word heal comes from the whole. And the word holy also comes from the whole. He is whole, healed, holy. Be aware of your wound. Don't help it to grow. Let it be healed, and it will be healed only when you move to the roots. The less the head, the more the wound will heal. With no head, there is no wound. Live a headless life. Move as a total being and accept things. Just for 24 hours, try it. Total acceptance, whatsoever happens. Someone insults you, accept it. Don't react and see what happens. Suddenly, you will feel an energy flowing in you that you have not felt before. And hopefully we've been learning to practice that. I'm still learning, but I'm getting better at it. So, and with this new moon, I did a collective meditation earlier this evening, and I felt an enormous embrace of the Great Mother, nurturing and welcoming us into her womb, her lap, however you want to see it. But moving into our present energy, we have the Ten of Cups, which is another completion, and the Ace of Cups. So we move directly from the completion of our emotional cycle into a brand new gift of emotion. What does that mean for you? I have no idea. But what I can say is the clarifier on it was the Six of Pentacles in reverse. So what I would say is that our last emotional cycle, karmic cycle, was completed under the false premise of, well, I take that back. It was characterized by a sense of inequality in life. Always either you giving too much or the other person giving too much, and that this characterized each of the opportunities for emotional growth, and probably caused a certain amount of turmoil in them, in those experiences, and disharmony. And so where you could have had perhaps beautiful, edifying experiences that you would hold fondly in your heart, you instead had tarnished emotional experiences. But with those experiences comes growth and learning, and you have reached that point of graduation in order to come into a brand new emotional cycle in this present moment. The first cup is available to you. As we just read with the healing card, the King of Water card, this is the opportunity as we face this first cup to think in the way that Osho guided us to be considerate of what we fill our cup with. That means taking responsibility for our own emotions, for our own communication, for our own investment in negativity. And I think we know where we want to go with that, so I look forward to seeing that evolve for us in a way that will be more inviting and edifying and pleasant and playful and yeah, all those things. Our future energy, we had the Six of Swords, deemed science in this deck. I have to figure that one out. I need to learn more about that. But the Six of Swords is, of course, moving away from our troubles, moving away from our emotional turmoil, moving away from being over influenced by our shadow. Of course, we have to integrate our shadow, and that may have been what those 10 cups were all about, and you may have made great progress with integrating your shadow, and so you now have that opportunity to move away. Of course, there'll always be new opportunities to integrate other aspects of the shadow, because we never really graduate, I don't think, to that degree in one lifetime. But who knows? Maybe you will. Maybe you have. But you probably wouldn't be watching this if you had, because you'd be that King of Water. And something to aspire to, right? And that came out with clarifiers on what it is that we're moving away from. So or the characterization of what those waters contained, the turmoil of the subconscious and the trauma remnants, and that is the Seven of Cups, debauch, and Five of Cups, disappointment. So, that's intense, right? And I like the fact that they're depicted for their truth, because the Five of Cups is depicted in the Rider-Waite as 3 cups being spilled and 2 still standing, but the disappointment keeps us so anchored in the energy of the spilled cups that we fail to pay attention to the 2 remaining cups. So that disappointment has probably been what characterized that imbalance in our Ten of Cups completion. there's something sad about having a whole chapter of experiences, emotional experiences in life, and realizing that our mood, our demeanor, our incapacity to surmount our emotional hang-ups colored our experiences in ways that were not only disappointing and hurtful towards ourselves, but also for those who we shared them with. And that's a hard truth to face, but because of the work we've been doing, we're letting go of that disappointment and putting our faith in the potentiality of not repeating those mistakes in the future. And as a result, we're also letting go of debauch, which in this case is, I think, letting go of the false attachment to luxury, which when we are attached to luxury, we inevitably invite poverty consciousness into our lives, unless you happen to be, a billionaire. But and if you are, I'll give you a reading for $1 million. How's that? But I think that's an interesting thing to focus on right now in this world as it stands. What is wealth, and what do we attach value to that doesn't really have value? What pursuits do we have in life that are empty, or that we know will not fulfill us, but that we have previously been attached to? Because this is also indicating that we're letting go of that. So good news. And it was clarified by the Chariot. So the Chariot is the implication that we have done the work to meld or to integrate the masculine and the feminine in order to get those wheels turning, so that we take this new energy, this new perspective, and thrust forward into something wonderful, but who knows what the hell that is. But we're going to find out by experience alone. But our Osho exit conclusion card for this new moon in Virgo reading is the Source, which is as all-encompassing as it can get. So let me read that, and then I shall leave you to go experience all of this wonderful alleviation and emancipation, emotional emancipation. That's what I'm calling this. What am I looking for? Oh yeah, Source, which is, I think, the Ace of Fire. Yes. 98. I was gonna say I'm a little rusty, but actually I'm not too rusty. So I'm glad this worked out. When we speak of being grounded or centered, it is this source that we are talking about. When we begin a creative project, it is this source that we tune into. This card reminds us that there is a vast reservoir of energy available to us, and that we tap into it not by thinking and planning, but by getting grounded, centered, and silent enough to be in contact with the source. It is within each of us, like a personal, individual sun giving us life. Like a personal, individual sun giving us life and nourishment. Pure energy, pulsating, available. It is ready to give us anything we need to accomplish so. It's ready to give us anything we need to accomplish something, and ready to welcome us back home when we want to rest. So whether you are beginning something new and need inspiration right now, or you just finished something and want to rest, go to the source. It's always waiting for you, and you don't even have to step out of your home to find it. Zen asks you to come out of the head and go to the basic source. It's not that Zen is not aware of the uses of energy in the head, but if all the energy is used in the head, you will never become aware of your eternity. You will never know as an experience what it is to be one with the whole, when the energy is just at the center, pulsating, when it is not moving anywhere, neither in the head nor in the heart, but it is the very source from where the heart takes it. The heart takes it, the head takes it, pulsating at the very source. That is the very meaning of Zazen. I always love that one. Zazen means just sitting at the very source. Enzo, what are you doing? Zazen means just sitting at the very source, not moving anywhere. A tremendous force arises, a transformation of energy into light and love, into greater life, into compassion, into creativity. It can take many forms, but first you have to learn how to be at the source. Then the source will decide where your potential is. You can relax at the source, and it will take you to your very potential. And may this new moon in Virgo take you to your potential. I send you much love and wishes for infinite blessings. Namaste. Bye.